Hey, my brothers and sisters, good day, family. This is another blessing, another opportunity to come before you with the 5,500 questions and answers on the Holy Bible. Today being Monday, December 2nd, 2024. Another day of blessing. Salamat sa Dios. Thank you, Yahweh, God of Israel and Judah. In studying of Cowboys, yeah, of course. Okay, in study of our weekly subject for the last 3 or 4 weeks has been sin. And we find in Matthew chapter 27 the written inscription placed over the head of Christ while he was on the cross there. The written inscription read, Jesus, King of the Jews. And it was supposedly written in Latin and Greek and Hebrew. But we find out that there is no letter J in Greek, which the Romans used, or in the Hebrew. There was no letter J. And that is to help us with the truth of the name, as far as it allows us to see the light of the truth and expose the ignorance and unknowing of the true name of Christ, the Messiah. There was no letter J in Hebrew or in the Greek alphabet. Okay, getting that out of the way. Now that you know, you're not ignorant anymore to that fact. Also, family and friends, every established worship center has laws and bylaws concerning biblical precepts and examples of ethical and moral polity of the organization called the church and its functions and operation. It has conduct on the can and cannot, the do's and don'ts of the organization and its members. Recently, for the last several weeks, and not only that, but taking notice of, a lot of our leaders, even myself, being in responsibility and in ministry, a lot of our leaders in ministry have been called out and exposed for things done and said that were not, that brought us to fault. And we, being at fault, have consequences. And I'm not trying to make a name for myself or anything like that, but a lot of guys have gotten out there and became selfish in ministry. And God tells us, Yahweh, God tells us not to let that pride and selfish and that filthy lucre bring in contention to contending for the faith. And we have laws, even biblical laws. And every church organization has laws, precepts, and examples basically taken from the Bible on how to conduct oneself ethically and morally and biblically. For us in ministry, we can't be in ministry and be one shoe in the church and the other shoe out in the world. We can't. That's not totally functional. Okay, it's going to have problems here. A house divided, it's not going to stand. It's not going to stand at all. So far as the operations, the can and cannots, the do's and don'ts of the organization and its members, even leadership, we are not immune to discipline in ministry as leaders, pastors, preachers, teachers, prophets, etc. And you may find out that information in Proverbs chapter 10, verse 9, Proverbs chapter 11, verse 3, 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1 through 13, and even Titus chapter 1, verse 5 through 9. Even with Paul's epistles to the churches face problems like the division and allegiance to different leaders, sexual immorality, misuse of spiritual gifts, disputes over doctrine, lawsuits, lack of understanding, conduct and behavior, even outside of the church, how we conduct ourselves outside when we get out of the churches from congregation. Even in Corinth, had problems. They had problems with sexual immorality, lawsuits, and also in Galatia concerning the Jewish laws, circumcision, and problems with understanding grace. The Roman lack of unity, the church there in Rome, the lack of unity. There were other influences coming in to try to influence those that were there. The Nicolaitans and the Sadducees and Pharisees bringing in the law and trying to enforce the law with things they wasn't doing themselves, but they were trying to enforce it concerning spiritual superiority, sexual misbehavior, idolatry, pride, finances, doctrine, discipline, and the gospel being preached, and even preaching. Some were preaching another gospel, and confusing the people, even with the error in theology. For there was a lot of influence upon the Christian establishment there in those areas because of the philosophies that were taught by the Greek and the Romans there, tried to come into influence on the church that was set up there in the area. And the government wanted to influence. And eventually it did come into being and having influence upon the churches that were established there. And it brought in a bunch of errors to the organization of the church, and the leaders allowed it to happen mostly under force by the Roman government. There was error in theology, and taken into theology, there was errors in lifestyles, and another gospel being preached. Okay, now let us move on. Let's move on to 5,500 questions and answers on the Holy Bible. The author is Joseph Howard Gray, D.D. Okay. We see a problem with David and Absalom, okay? David, king of Hebron, okay? And we're already at 7 minutes, gotta go. Where was David when the news came to him about the death of Saul and Jonathan? The author stated that he was at Ziklag. Find that in 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 1. Question number 2. What effect did Saul's death have on David? The author stated that he mourned for him and wept. Find that in 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 12. Question number 3. How did Saul die? The author stated Saul died by his own hand after being wounded by the Philistines, Palestinians. Find that in 1 Samuel chapter 31, verse 3 and 4. Question number 4. What did David do to the young man who, by his own confession, had killed Saul? The author stated that David ordered his men, his soldiers, to kill him, that man that had confessed about his killing Saul. Find that in 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 14, 16. Question number 5. What touching record did David leave of his love for Saul and Jonathan? The author stated that a song of lamentation David wrote and left. Find that in 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 17 to 27. Question number 6. Did David at once go and possess his kingdom? The author stated yes. After seeking direction from Yahweh God, he went up to Hebron and was there and was anointed king there. Find that in 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 1, 4. Question number 7. What tribe first acknowledged David's claim? The author stated it was the tribe of Judah. Question number 8. What act of unnecessary bloodshed took place at Gibeon? The author stated that a battle between the men of Judah and the men of Israel. Find that in 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 8, 17. Question number 9. Which were victorious? The author stated that Joab's men, or Abner's. And the author stated that Joab's men was victorious. Question number 10. What happened in Asahel, Joab's brother? What happened to Asahel, Joab's brother? The author stated he was killed by Abner. Find that in 2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 18, 23. Question number 11. How long did the war continue between the houses of Saul and David. About 2 years, the author stated. About 2 years the war continued. Northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. They were called Israel. It was all part of Israel, but the Israelites and Judah, the southern kingdom. Okay, 3 tribes included the southern kingdom, and Judah was one of them. Okay, question number 12. What event turned this scale on David's side? What event turned the scale on David's side? The author stated that Abner's deserting Israel on account of a quarrel with Ishbosheth, and offering to make terms with David. Ishbosheth. Excuse me. 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 7 to 20. Question number 13. Did David receive Abner? Daughter stated yes. He received him with hospitality and honor. Find that in 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 20. Question number 14. How did Joab like this? The author stated that Joab blamed David for it. Find that in 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 24 and 25. Okay, that was a family feud going on between the northern and the southern kingdom. And we find out that, David was king at that time, and we find also that Christ, he was from the tribe of Judah. There was no J, so it was Judah. And once again, there's no J in the name written, so far as that's concerned, in Hebrew or Greek. There was no letter J. So we're opening up the light. Hopefully we can see the truth and be set free from the lies that were implanted, embedded in our history, in our knowledge of knowing the truth. We've been spoon-fed by philosophies and theologians and things of this nature, or stuff that doesn't even apply to us. And you're even probably going to end up getting a so-called Christmas tree, which is not biblical. And December 25th is nowhere found in the Bible as Christ's birthday. But these are all pagan things that you have been embedded with in your life by the so-called historians and Christianity. And that's where many of us have gotten off. Even our parents told us about Santa Claus, but somebody had to tell them about Santa Claus. Santa Claus is fake, it's pagan, it's not real, and you still telling your children about the same lies. You're passing it on. Let us stop, because we're going to be held accountable for the things that we do and say. And pastors, preachers, and teachers, we're held accountable also, that we're not immune. You try to put your pastor, preacher, teacher, prophet up on a pedestal just to get knocked off. And the foundation that the church is built on is upon the foundation that Christ has set. Not because you know how to use a hammer and nail, you're going to build a church, a building. That's not it. The foundation is what Christ founded. Okay? This is Minister Brother Dale Ward, and my praises unto you and thanks to all of you for listening, liking, and subscribing to the 5,500 questions and answers on the Holy Bible. Please, brothers and sisters, we're working together in ministry, okay? It's not about me. It's about us working together in ministry, lifting up the Most High, Almighty Yahweh and His Son, Yahweh Shah, the Christ. Blessings upon you and your family. All right?